Okay, so as per usual, we've had another emotional support poll. And I think this particular poll from the Daily Mirror represents such a spectacular evolution of emotional support polls. And I think it deserves its own dedicated analysis because the format seems to have changed. So your previous emotional support polls, they used to ask things like, do you think the royals are doing a good job? Do you approve of the king? It was what I would call softball questions. And these were designed to produce very reassuring numbers, right, that could be deployed whenever Harry and Meghan generated positive coverage elsewhere. So the previous emotional support poll that I discussed was something like, who's the most popular, who's the most popular royal? And then he cited Princess Diana's first, then the late Queen Elizabeth, then the other brother, the other girl, So it was like, yeah, who do you like the most? Who's your least favorite? Very softball. But I feel that the Mirror has surpassed that. Yes, they've gone beyond that now because they polled their readers and they asked their readers whether Harry and Meghan should be allowed to carry out overseas visits for charity work. When I read that, I was like, this is another level of derangement. Seriously. It's another level of delusion. It's another level of spite. I've often said, and I've even tweeted it a couple of times, I've often said that it looks to me like spite is the national dish of the UK. You have leftover royals who are doing nada mas to improve our lives, right? And then you have two private citizens that are doing their bit to improve people's lives. And you run a poll asking whether these two private individuals that you claim are no longer royal, no longer working for you, you want nothing to do with, and you still want to dictate their movement. But let's examine this. Yeah, because, before I go off on a rant, let me examine this. So Harry and Meghan, as I said, are private citizens. They are British nationals living in the United States, or rather, Harry is. Meghan is an American, and their children are part American, part British. And they have built careers in philanthropy, media, and lifestyle brand development. And they travel internationally as private individuals to support causes that they care about. They are using their own money. They are using their own resources, and they are not receiving any public funding. That's point number 3. And the Mirror is asking its readers whether they should be allowed to do this. Allowed. So you were very keen to kick them out. You were very keen to say you want nothing to do with them. It's like an ex-employer of mine thinking they have the authority to tell me what to do. Yeah, don't. That is why I find this really, really ridiculous. I'm thinking, you don't. I'm an ex-employee. I'm no longer under contract to you. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. I've gone my way. You've gone your way. You've called me every name under the sun, and so be it. I've responded the best way I can, with facts, with evidence, with my own side of the story. So let me go. This is beyond deranged, I tell you. So anyway, 19,000 people responded. I truly believe that these 19,000 people, we know where they've come from. And 93% of these people said no. And that's 17,754 Mirror readers decided that 2 private citizens should not be permitted to visit foreign countries to do charitable work. I have news for you. These foreign organizations, they do not read the Mirror. These foreign organizations and foreign charities, they do not care for readers of the Mirror. These foreign organizations and charitable organizations, all they care about is making an impact. They care about people that can publicize, as well as donate, as well as inspire people to recognize what they stand for.
Let me ask you something. What kind of poll asks whether two private citizens should be allowed to travel the world and do charity work? No, seriously. What kind of question is that? Because apparently, according to a new poll pushed by the Daily Mirror, that's exactly the debate now. Should Prince Harry and Meghan Markle be allowed to carry out overseas visits for charity? Allowed. Let that word sink in. Because what we're witnessing here isn't just another headline. It's a whole new level of narrative control. And even long-time royal commentator Jennie Bond had to step in and ask the most obvious question of all. What's the problem? And honestly, that question might just expose everything. So here's what's fascinating. We've seen these kinds of polls before, right? Soft, harmless, almost comforting questions like, who's your favourite royal? Do you approve of the king? Which royal is most popular? These polls are designed to do one thing, and one thing only: reassure. Reassure a certain audience, reinforce a certain narrative, and most importantly, produce nice, tidy numbers that can be turned into headlines. But now, the game has changed. Because this latest poll didn't ask who you like. It asked whether Harry and Meghan should be permitted to do charitable work abroad. And that's not just a question. That's a mindset. Let's break this down logically. Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex are private citizens, financially independent, not funded by the British public, living outside the UK, building careers in philanthropy, media and business. They travel using their own money. They support causes they personally care about. They partner with organisations that invite them. So the idea that a tabloid poll is asking whether they should be allowed to do this, it doesn't just sound ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's like your old boss, who fired you, insulted you and told you to leave, suddenly turning around and saying, actually, we're going to vote on whether you're allowed to succeed elsewhere. That's not authority, that's obsession. Now let's talk numbers. Around 19,000 people responded to this poll. And according to the headline, 93% said no. No, Harry and Meghan should not be allowed to do overseas charity visits. And here's where it gets interesting, because that number, 93%, isn't really the result. It's the product. It's the thing the poll was designed to produce. Because think about it, who is actually being polled here? Readers of the Daily Mirror. An audience that has spent years consuming negative headlines, critical commentary, selective narratives, constant framing. We're talking about people who've been exposed to the same messaging over and over again. So when they respond, are those independent opinions, or are they reflections of what they've been repeatedly told? Let's be honest, this isn't happening in a vacuum. For years, certain parts of the media ecosystem have pushed a very specific narrative about Harry and Meghan. And when you continuously feed an audience the same perspective, day after day, headline after headline, you don't just inform opinion, you shape it. So polling that same audience and presenting the result as public opinion, that's like asking a room full of critics whether they like the person they've been told to criticise. Of course, you already know the answer, and that's why this poll exists. Not to discover truth, but to generate headlines. While all of this is happening in the tabloids, out in the real world, organisations across the globe are doing something very different. They're inviting Harry and Meghan, not because of titles, but because of impact. Because when these two show up, they bring global attention, media coverage, funding opportunities, genuine engagement. They don't just appear for photo ops, they participate, they connect, they amplify causes, and that's what charities actually care about, not poll numbers from a British tabloid. Here's another key point that often gets overlooked. The people voting in that poll, they are not Harry and Meghan's audience. They are not their supporters. They are not their donors. They are not their community. So expecting that group to approve of what Harry and Meghan do is like expecting someone who never planned to buy your product to suddenly become your customer. It doesn't work like that. Harry and Meghan operate on a global stage. Their audience is international. Their support base is diverse. And most importantly, their work is not dependent on the approval of people who already decided they don't like them. Now, here's where things take an interesting turn, because even within that article, something unexpected happened. Jennie Bond, a long-time royal commentator, did something rare. She pushed back. She questioned the framing. She asked why this trip was being labelled a fake royal tour when Harry and Meghan never called it that. She pointed out that they are doing exactly what they always said they would do. And then she asked the question that cuts through all the noise. What is the problem? And honestly, that question is everything. Let's answer it. Because the issue isn't really about travel, or charity, or protocol. The real issue is much simpler. Harry and Meghan are thriving. They are visible. They are effective. They are connecting with people. They are building something on their own terms. And for some people, that's the problem. Because it challenges a narrative that said they would fail. It contradicts the idea that they needed the system to survive. And it proves, very publicly, that they can succeed outside of it. Think about it. Every time Harry and Meghan complete a successful visit, every time they spotlight a cause, every time they generate global conversation, it reinforces one thing. They're still influential. And not just influential, but impactful. And that's where the discomfort comes in. Because influence without control, that's something certain institutions and certain media outlets don't know how to handle. So now we circle back to the original question. Should they be allowed? Allowed by who? A newspaper? Its readers? Public opinion polls? Because here's the reality. There is no mechanism to stop them. No authority that can dictate their movements. No poll that can override their independence. So the real question isn't whether they should be allowed. It's this. Why does anyone think they need permission in the first place? And that's what I want to hear from you. Do you think these polls actually reflect public opinion? Or are they just carefully crafted narratives dressed up as numbers? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read everything. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives like this. Because we're not just reacting to headlines here, we're breaking them down and asking the questions others won't. And trust me, this conversation is far from over.